There is just no possible way that could have happened. We didn't black out for a second. We were completely aware the entire time. We kept walking. We weren't missing any time. Something happened where he was there and then he was gone. He looked at us again and then he walked into the woods.
Welcome back to Hey, That's Weird, the podcast where you tell me your weird stories and I bring it to terrifying life with cool music and spooky sounds. It's episode 8. We've had so many new listeners over the last couple of weeks and so much interaction on the socials. So as usual, thank you for that, and a huge special thanks to Elle, Small Kirby, Kim Hurtle, and Grace Club for going the extra 1,000 miles and leaving me written reviews for the show. That's huge. It's extremely heartwarming to know that people are connecting with this thing. So let's make this community even bigger. I'll never ask for money from my listeners, but I'll absolutely ask you to show your favorite Hey That's Weird episode to a friend who you think might enjoy it. This week, my guest and storyteller is Randi from Minnesota. Randi reached out on Instagram and sent me her story via a voice memo. First of all, this is an awesome way for people to submit stories for the show. So if you have a story that you want to share, get a little vulnerable and send it over. There's no judgment here. The reason I started doing this thing is because I love to listen to these stories. Alright, get ready to be freaked out. This one is spooky. Without further ado, Randi, let's get weird.
Hi, my name is Randi. I am an audiologist living in a suburb off of Minneapolis in Minnesota. So not necessarily living in the big city, but close enough for a somewhat reasonable commute to get to work. Throughout my entire life, I have had a lot of weird experiences happen, most of which happened when I was younger, in middle school and high school. So a lot of that I blame on, pumped up adrenaline when you're hanging out with friends during sleepovers and watching scary movies, all of those things. I had one happen more recently, though, that kind of consisted of a couple of different things happening the few days before Halloween and on Halloween about 2 years ago. For a little bit of backstory, so I have a dog named Gemma. She was a rescue. She is a larger dog, very fluffy. She can be slightly aggressive. I wouldn't really say aggressive though. It's more so that she's just really big and gets really excited around other people and other dogs. And she has a very deep bark, and so a lot of that comes off aggressive to people who do not know her. That being said, anybody who has a reactive dog knows things tend to go easier if you just do not involve other people or other dogs, other animals, when you are going outside and going for walks. After moving into our new house, we found a good routine of trying to get away from the general suburban public as much as possible. That way we come into less contact with other dogs, people, all of that. So there is a school that is pretty close by to our house. It's about a mile and a half away. This school is for middle schoolers and troubled youths. I feel like that's not really a PC way of saying it anymore, but it was essentially a school so that if anybody was not able to learn successfully in a quote-unquote normal school, they could go here and hopefully thrive in whatever environment they are needing. Next to that school, there is a pretty good woods. There are a couple of different woods next to our house that are all city-owned. I thought up to this point that we have tried to explore through, Being in Minnesota, when it is summertime, you get a lot of bugs, wood ticks, mosquitoes, deer flies, all of those things. And so there are only certain times of the year that you can really make use of those sort of environments without feeling like you're being attacked by nature. We found the woods next to the school, and for a while it was a really great place to walk. There was no signs up at that point in time stating, private property, do not trespass, none of those things. So we continue walking on one of the paths that I had found previously, going a little bit deeper into the woods this time than we have before. The woods, it's a mixture of light trees and then some more field-like areas. But where we were coming to this next part, it was a lot thicker of foliage. So there was bigger tree coverage, less of the fields, and so more of just normal forest floor sort of environments. There was a little river that was running past. It was a really nice, peaceful scene. We keep walking, and that scene really changed quickly. We came across what looked like almost like a campsite gone wrong is the best way that I can describe it. When we first came across it, you felt this sort of dark energy, but the trees were also blocking out a lot of the light. And so immediately you kind of just gaslight yourself in any of those situations, thinking like, oh, this must be where the high schoolers were coming after school to party or something like that. So I didn't want to put any sort of nefarious thoughts towards it right away before we were kind of taking a better look around. But essentially, there was a whole bunch of empty liquor bottles. There was a lot of weird burned objects in the middle of this fire pit. So it was different types of food materials, different children's toys. There was also a lot of ripped up, soiled clothing. With all of that, it just didn't feel good the longer that we were there. There was a couple of rusty knives and different sort of sharp metal edges. And so because seeing all of that right away, I was like, nope, we're not doing this. So I grabbed the dog and, we kind of quickly hustle our way out of there. We keep just walking straight, not trying to give it another thought, just trying to get out of that area. It looked freshly used is the best way that I can kind of describe that, where things didn't really feel settled there. It felt like I was intruding on a scene that I did not want to be intruding on. We keep walking. We're just seeing more and more weird things in the forest at this point. A lot of just weird man-made things kind of hanging in the trees, like off of ropes, things like that. We finally make it through the thicker forest again, and we're back into more of a field. We turn from this one tree that's a larger tree, and then all of a sudden, right in front of us is a campsite. Within our neighborhood, our area, we don't have a lot of unhomed people, but coming across all of this, now things were coming into place of making sense of, somebody is living in this woods, in this tent. I'm going to respect their privacy. We're not going to be walking over here. So Gemma, the dog, immediately got very excited, and I was like, nope. Because even at the end of the day, I have a larger dog with me, but I am still a smaller female, all alone, now very deep in the middle of the woods with whoever's tent this is, possibly or not possibly responsible for the scene that we came across earlier in the woods that just had very bad vibes. So we kind of immediately turn back and just book our way out of there. We go home from there that day. I wrap it up. I tell my husband about the weird things that I saw in the woods, and his response was pretty much like,
well, maybe you shouldn't be going into the woods.
I didn't really like that answer though, because I did like being there. I liked being able to surround myself with nature when the city doesn't really allow for a lot of that. So because learning lessons can be difficult, the next day we went back to the woods. We did not go in the woods though this time. So there is a little bike path that goes kind of woods adjacent. It more so goes around the perimeter of most of the woods before connecting onto a different road. So we were going on the bike path, kind of that happy medium between not going in there and still being able to surround yourself with some nice trees. One thing to note is while we're on these walks, I am never wearing AirPods, big headphones, nothing like that. I'm always somebody who wants to be very aware in any of those situations just because you never know, safety first. So we are walking, getting a little bit farther, deeper into the woods, and I hear what sounds like somebody whispering into my right ear. It was nothing distinct. It just more sounded like speech that you were on the brink of hearing, but not really able to make out what was being said at all. So the best way I can describe it is like a where when I do it, it almost sounds like parcel tongue from Harry Potter, but it was just a little bit more panicked sounding, a little bit more attention seeking. So I turn around and I'm like, what the fuck was that? Nothing was there, obviously. There's nobody around us. If somebody was walking up to us, I would have heard footsteps by that time. Gemma would have heard footsteps, all of that. Kind of write it off, you're outside. It could have just been the wind, something like that I try and play it off as. We walk a little bit farther and something aggressively pulls my hair. It was in a ponytail. It just aggressively pulled a sharp pull downward. I turn around again. I'm getting really freaked out at this point because, you were just assaulted. So I turn around and I'm like, what the hell? Like, what is actually going on right now? Still, there is absolutely nobody there. Trying to gaslight myself again. And I'm like, that's crazy. It must have got caught by something when there's absolutely nothing surrounding us. I pick up the pace slightly, trying to get my dog to sniff less so we can just circle the circle and go back home. We walk probably about 5 more feet, and I see something kick my dog in the side. She was walking happily in front of me, and then I see her get literally pushed to the side, pushed to the right pretty aggressively. She yelps, she turns, starts sniffing her side, sniffing all around, trying to figure out what happened. And I'm also trying to figure out what happened at that exact moment because I saw it happen, but obviously I didn't see anything actually kick her. I pat her down, try and make sure that nothing is broken, she's all good, and then we just run out of there. We're all done for the day. I'm pretty over the woods at this point. Whatever is going on in there, it does not want me there. It does not want us by there. So we just leave. And I pretty much decide, it's going to be winter soon. We're going to get snow. We're not going to go on such long walks. We're just going to call it. The next day was Halloween. We are taking a different route this time because I do not want to go near the woods. With that route, we are essentially crossing over 2 different bridges, one of which is just a normal bridge that cars also go on. The other one is a footbridge. The footbridge is one of the nicer ones because rather than having a whole bunch of stairs to climb up, it is essentially 2 big spirals. One big spiral to get up to the top, then you cross over the busy highway, and then a spiral going the opposite way to get back down to the bottom. It's of note, at the bottom of the bridge, once we would have crossed over, is the woods. I was not planning on going in the woods. We were planning on cutting right over right away into the school. The fields of the school are right in that same area. So it kind of puts you out in the same area, and we were just going to cross over and completely avoid the woods that day. So we start our incline. We start walking up the spiral to get to the top, and we see a guy. Not a big deal. It's a guy. Just something that I am usually more so aware of because, again, big dog, she can get excited, all of those things. So I see him. Gemma also sees him. With the weather, it is Minnesota. It is Halloween, and so it's already getting very cool outside. We don't really have much of a fall here. You more so get a couple of weeks of it being 60s, 50s, and then it gets really, really cold really fast. Because usually at this point in time of year, we've had 1, maybe 2 snowfalls. So I am already dressed maybe a little bit warmer than other true-bred Minnesotans or even Canadians might be. It is about 45 degrees out. I'm wearing a light jacket. I have some lighter boots on. I'm already wearing a hat because why not? You're cold. The person that we saw had a very, very different outfit on than I had. He was wearing a Hawaiian shirt. It was bright orange, had typical Hawaiian-looking flowers on it. That was pretty beat up looking. It was not buttoned all the way up to the top. The sleeves were ripped off. It was in a rougher state. This guy also had a really long, unkempt orange beard. He looked probably like 35. So he did not look overly old, nothing weird other than the fact that he was dressed like in this weird Hawaiian shirt. He had this big fisherman hat on, so it was, the tan hat with all of the little lures stuck in it. And then he had some really dirty looking cargo pants on and slider flip-flops. So he looks like he is dressed for a day at the cabin in mid-July while I'm probably overdressed looking like it's already the middle of December. You kind of just remember those things because you're like, what the hell are you wearing? It is not warm enough out here to be dressed that way. So, I get a good look at him, but we are still going up this bridge and he is coming down the bridge. You can see him at every point. My dog sees him, I see him. She's getting really excited, thinking that she's about to meet a new friend. With the big cement columns that are kind of surrounding the middle of the bridge, it's the only time that we do not have that viewpoint of him because your view is obscured at that point due to that piece of infrastructure. So we can see him throughout every second until you go over the cement piece because that blocks your view. So we are almost neck and neck. He is right about to hit us. We are 1 foot away, making a final, very, very short turn. You can hear his feet walking. You expect him to be right there. We passed the last cement thing that would be right in our way, and he's gone. He is nowhere to be seen. I'm looking around for him. My dog is looking around for him. He is just not there. I immediately assume, wow, I guess me and my dog both shared a hallucination. It's crazy that this keeps happening. We should just keep walking. We have to go up the bridge anyways to get home. We're about 2 miles away still. So we keep walking. Gemma keeps sniffing around trying to find him because, he was there. He was very there. He was very tangible. He was just some rough looking guy. But then he's gone. He's not there. So we get all the way up to the top of the spiral. We are about 50% way over the footbridge right now. So the busy road is underneath us. We are halfway over the footbridge, and at this viewpoint, you can clearly see the school. You can see the fields that I was planning on cutting through, and you can see the woods. I am looking over there, and I see the guy. He is wearing his entire getup. He is looking right at us, and then he just turns and he walks into the woods. This man is about 2 football fields away from us in distance. Within the split second of when we should have seen him rounding the last corner of that bridge to now he has made it that far without me or my dog seeing him, has gone all the way down the other side of the bridge, crossed over a fence, and is now going into the woods. There is just no possible way that could have happened. We didn't black out for a second. We were completely aware the entire time. We kept walking. We weren't missing any time. Something happened where he was there and then he was gone. He looked at us again, and then he walked into the woods. I immediately texted my husband and just went, I think I just saw a ghost. You know, it's Halloween. It is very cliche, and it's also very unsatisfying because it is not necessarily a fun story that you can tell around a campfire. He did not look like any sort of ghost that you would imagine. He just really looked like a dude that was living rough, that was there, and then he was gone. So we immediately turned back. I did not cross the bridge. We did not go near the woods. We turned back and just took the really, really long way home. So we didn't go near the school for a couple of months until that next spring. We were walking the same bike path that goes around the woods, and there are now a whole bunch of signs. There are signs that say, private property, do not enter, trespassing, property belongs to the state of Minnesota, all of those things. Now, I know I did not tell anybody what I saw with the tent being back in the woods, not in any sort of official capacity, but all I could really think about and not necessarily get out of my head was that first scene that we came across. The ripped up clothing with the weird things hanging from the trees with the pile of burned children toys. I don't know if anything nefarious happened there, if anybody was actually hurt other than, maybe some unhomed people letting off some steam in the woods. But I think about it often now, and I just know it's not my place to be in there. And I hope if anything did happen, that everybody is okay.
I couldn't get the image of the man Randy described out of my head. A bright orange Hawaiian shirt and a beard to match on a cold Minnesota fall day? Who the heck was this guy? I asked Randi her thoughts on who she thought he could have been. Here's what she had to say.
Honestly, I still don't really know what I believe. I feel like as humans, we are so good at trying to rationalize whatever we consider to be impossible. Do I want to believe that it was just some guy protecting his home? Yes, because that's easier. I can rationalize that. However, I have no explanation of how he could have disappeared and reappeared so far away. If it was just a man, that wouldn't be possible. Because of that, I believe he was something else, something other.
I also mentioned to Randi that myself and the audience might be a little outraged that something harmed her dog, so I pressed her for an update on Gemma.
When that thing first kicked her, I got a little nervous. I figured she wasn't seriously hurt, but from her point of view, I was the only person out there with her. She definitely thought it was me who did it, which just broke my heart. She's fine now. She's laying on the couch, begging for snacks. I can't imagine she remembers it, so I guess that's up to me to carry the burden for the both of us.
As usual, instead of ads, I offer all storytellers on Hey That's Weird a chance to promote or plug something that's dear to their heart. Here's Randi's.
Regardless of who or what the thing person was that I saw on the bridge, at the end of the day, there was still an unhomed person living in that woods. Even with homelessness being less apparent in my community, it is still a worthy cause. Please show support of this wonderful podcast by donating to your local homeless shelter, if you are able. A little can go a long ways. If you are looking for something more specific, Simpson Housing Services is a local Minnesota nonprofit helping people experiencing homelessness. You can find their website at simpsonhousing.org. Thank you.
That does it for Hey That's Weird episode 8. Thank you so much for the 2,000 of you that have listened to this show so far. I see and appreciate every single one of you. Please tell a friend about the podcast. Let's build this community. A huge final thanks to Randi for being vulnerable and telling her story, and for being just a straight up compassionate person. Until next time, stay weird.